It's AR the Equalizer, the data scientist of boxing, spinning the block for another breakdown. Let's get into it. There is discussion right now as to where the year of 2023 stands all time, measuring the best boxing years in history. Let me repeat that. There is questions right now as to where the year of 2023 measures and ranks all time out of all the best boxing years ever. We have had, right? We have had April 22nd of this year, Gervonta Davis versus Ryan Garcia, billed as it doesn't get any better than this. Then the following month, May 20th, Devin Haney versus Vasyl Lomachenko, billed as checkmate. And I'll stop right there to say that those two fights, they definitely delivered. Great fights. Gervonta Davis versus Ryan Garcia, it went as many expected it to go, ending in a knockout. Devin Haney versus Vasyl Lomachenko went as many expected, ending with the fight going to the scorecards, in which it was a closely fought battle, but Devin Haney defended all of those belts against a living legend in Vasyl Lomachenko, right? And then we have the upcoming action for July 8th, Virgil Ortiz Jr. versus Eimantas Stanionis. And also, in the same day, we have Jaron Boots Ennis versus Roman Villa, right? And then we have later in the month of July 25th, Nawa Inoue versus Stephen Cool Boy Steph Fulton Jr. And then a few days following after that, July 29th, we have Spence Jr. versus Terrence Bud Crawford. Then just announced last week, we have September 30th, Saul Canelo Alvarez versus Jermell Charlo, the Iron Man. Jermell Charlo, not Jamal, but Jermell. The reigning undisputed 154-pound super welterweight champion of the world. The reigning 168-pound super middleweight champion of the world. Going head-to-head, undisputed versus undisputed. Never before seen in boxing history. The year of 2023 is shaping up to be one of the best boxing years of all time. Like, we have major extravaganza events back to back. And I've went in the history books, I've gone in the archive to rank and to point out the years, the best boxing years, going way back to the 1930s, going back to the World War II era, really digging up in the crates to measure this thing out. For I am the data scientist of boxing. So it's only right for me to dig in the crates and really break this thing down on a metric scale. You heard? But before we get into that, I want to give some honorable mentions to separate major events, right? But was not great years that measures up against other great boxing years. We have separate major events that shocked the world. You know what I mean? February 14th, 1951, St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Sugar Ray Robinson versus Jake LaMotta. 1951 was a great boxing year, but overall, how it measures up to the other ones that I'm about to name, it's just this fight alone that held that year. When I speak of best boxing years, I'm talking about major extravaganzas, back to back. Mega fights, back to back. You feel what I'm saying? Another honorable mention, we have February 25th, 1964. We have Sonny Liston versus a young Cassius Clay, better known as Muhammad Ali. Right? And then September 16th, 1981, we have the showdown. Sugar Ray Leonard versus Hitman Thomas Hearns. And then April 15th, 1985, we have The War. Marvin Hagler versus Thomas Hitman Hearns. Another honorable mention, November 22nd, 1986, we have Judgment Day. Mike Tyson versus Trevor Berbick. And I'll say it again, these are honorable mentions, for these were great extravaganzas, mega fights, but encapsulating the whole year as a whole, the other fights didn't match the energy, didn't match the status of these fights that I'm naming, so I couldn't qualify them as the best boxing years of all time. You feel me? And we'll go on to the next one. We have April 6, 1987, the super fight, Marvin Hagler versus Sugar Ray Leonard. The last honorable mention before getting to the chronological list of the best boxing years of all time, we have September 10th, 1993, the fight, Julio Cesar Chavez versus Pernell Sweet Pea Whitaker. The separate major events, there were seven, in my opinion, 7 separate major events that were great. 1951, 1964, 1981, 1985, 1986, 1987, 1993. Great years. But as far as the magnitude of fights, mega fights, back to back, I don't put them in the greatest years of boxing. Right? So with no further ado, I'm going to get into the first major mega year of boxing, in my opinion. For this is all opinion based, but I'm still laying out the facts for you guys so y'all can chew it up and digest it however way y'all want to digest it. But we'll get into the first one. The year of 1938, World War II era. And a little backdrop on the World War II era, the whole world is at war. All the major powers that be are going head to head. Carnage in the field. You know what I mean? Frontline battles. The whole world is at war. Everyone's picking sides. So I don't even know how events were still being sanctioned and carried out during this scary, uncertain time. You even had people getting drafted to World War II. And from what I've researched and what I've learned, pretty much everyone got drafted to fight in the world, to fight in the World War. Everyone. Sugar Ray Robinson fought in the World War. Joe Louis, he fought in the World War. They at least enlisted in the army. You know what I mean? They at least enlisted in the army. They got suits, they got stripes. You know what I'm saying? As far as being on the battlefront, the front line, maybe not. But they were on standby to go to war if the enemy would have came on American soil. So pretty much everyone in America, every male was on go, was enlisted to fight in the war. You feel what I'm saying? 1938, May 31st, we have Barney Ross versus Henry Armstrong. The detail of this fight, this was Bernie Ross's final fight of his illustrious career that went the distance to 15 rounds in defeat to another all-time great, Henry Homicide Hank Armstrong. The magnitude of this fight, amazing, because the Jewish boxer, Barney Ross, he was pretty much the first of his kind. He was what a lot of boxers have adopted in this generation, the Floyd Mayweather effect. The counter-punching and outthinking, outsmarting your opponent, that was Barney Ross. He was a thinker in the ring. He outthought his opponents. It wasn't about him being the fastest, the strongest. It was about footwork and outthinking this man. That's what made Barney Ross who he was. He's Hall of Fame, International Hall of Fame. He's an all-time great. Fought in the 1930s. Put some respect on this man's name. Put some respect on Henry Armstrong's name. Another all-time great. Fought multiple weight classes and will knock you out and will punish you. Straight up pressure like a Tasmanian devil from round 1 to round 15 if it lasted that long. The magnitude of this fight, amazing. In the same year of 1938, we have June 22nd, Joe Louis versus Max Schmeling. Part 2. In the first fight, Joe Louis suffered his first loss against Max Schmeling. He got stopped. He got, I don't want to say exposed, but it was some things that got exposed in this fight that Joe Louis needed to work on. Because before the Max Schmeling fight, the first fight, Joe Louis, he was running through everybody. The Brown Bomber, running through everybody. But going up against Max Schmeling in the first fight, he had faced defeat. He got stopped. And what made this fight so compelling, the whole world was watching this fight. The whole world. For this is in the heat of World War II, where Adolf Hitler is on a rampage, going crazy, terrorizing the world. And guess who was associated with Germany? I'm not going to say he was associated with the Nazi fascist party, but he was associated with Germany, which by default people associated him with the fascist Nazi party, Max Schmeling. So we have the Great American versus the Nazi party guy, as the media portrayed it to be, in which Max Schmeling, he had no affiliation to those guys, but the media portrayed it that way, which made the magnitude of the first fight and the second fight enormous, like one of the greatest extravaganzas of all time, in which the fight commanded the world's attention, garnering a live gate of, at the time, $1,015,012, which is equivalent to $21.1 million in 2023. Wow. That's live gate. Back then, the whole world was watching. So, if this was in today's time, the arena sold out and they're selling pay-per-views. The whole world, they probably would have sold 50 million pay-per-views in today's time. Everyone was watching, right? Then we'll move on to the next major year, which is 1974. January 28th, we have Muhammad Ali versus Joe Frazier 2, billed as the super fight, aka the Frank Lucas mink coat fight. The fight was so big, this got Frank Lucas hemmed up. The FBI didn't know who Frank Lucas was, but as we seen in the movie American Gangster, Frank Lucas, he had seats in front of the mob bosses, ringside. That caught the FBI agent's attention. Like, hold up, wait a minute, who's this guy? That started the investigation. But guess who fight he was at? He was at the Muhammad Ali-Joe Frazier Part 2 fight. Madison Square Garden, New York City. Act like you know. Ali fought Frazier to a 15-round unanimous decision for the NABF heavyweight title. You heard? And then we'll move on to March 26th, George Foreman versus Ken Norton. George Foreman dominates Norton to a second-round TKO victory. Then we'll move on to October 30th of 1974, George Foreman versus Muhammad Ali, billed as the Rumble in the Jungle. Undefeated and undisputed heavyweight champion George Foreman suffers his first loss to Muhammad Ali in Kinshasa, Zaire, now Democratic Republic of Congo. Amazing fight. This is the fight where Muhammad Ali showed us the rope-a-dope strategy. Lay on the ropes for 6 rounds. In the 7th round, you take your man out when he gets tired. Oh boy, what great a year 1974 was. Oh, what great a year 1974 was. One of the best boxing years of all time, and there's many other fights, because this is the golden age of boxing, so there's many other fighters who was getting busy. You know what I'm saying? Roberto Duran, he was getting busy. You had Jose Napoles, he was getting busy. You had so many different guys in different weight classes that were doing their thing right around this time. Even a young Larry Holmes building his record. Actually a sparring partner of Muhammad Ali around this time. You had so much going on in the sport of boxing. Sugar Ray Leonard in the amateurs, going crazy. Marvin Hagler in the amateurs, going crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was just so much going on in the year of 1974, but we're only ranking the professional boxing matches, not amateur, not anything else. But still, 1974, great year. We'll move on to 1980, the year 1980, June 20th, Sugar Ray Leonard versus Roberto Duran, billed as the Brawl in Montreal. Oh man, Don King has some good titles. But yeah, I gotta give it to Don King, man. That man has some catchy titles and he can sell a fight. Despite all his business practices and his notoriety, his bad reputation with doing business, man, like he has some catchy titles, man. The Brawl in Montreal. Sugar Ray Leonard suffers his first defeat at the hands of Roberto Duran, the Hands of Stone, via 15-round unanimous decision. We'll move on to October 2nd of 1980. Larry Holmes versus Muhammad Ali, billed as the Last Hurrah. Caesar's Palace constructed a temporary 24,790-seat outdoor arena for this fight. The live gate was $6 million, a record for that time, which is equivalent to $37 million in 2023. Larry Holmes defeated Ali by 10th round TKO in what was supposed to be his last hurrah. This was supposed to be Ali's last fight. Why did he continue to fight? I mean, when you've been doing something your whole life, you get used to it, you love it. It's like, how do I do anything else? This is all I know how to do. We all have our reasons. Even though Ali didn't perform, he didn't look like the old form of Ali at all. He was way past his prime. Still, the event was an extravaganza. It was big. It sold. The numbers don't lie. We'll move on to November 25th of 1980. We have Roberto Duran versus Sugar Ray Leonard 2, billed as the Super Fight, and later popularly known as the No Mas Fight. Sugar Ray Leonard avenges his lone loss in dominating fashion, making Roberto Duran quit. No mas. Wow. What How great of a year was 1980? And I'm not even mentioning the other fighters that was still doing their thing at the time. I'm just measuring main event, major event to major event. You know what I'm saying? Extravaganza to extravaganza. When you can have them back to back in the same year, that makes for one of the best boxing years, right? All time. 1980, definitely on the list. Pound for pound. We'll move on to the year of 1996, June 7th. Julio Cesar Chavez versus Oscar De La Hoya, billed as Ultimate Glory. For the WBC Super Lightweight Championship, the Golden Boy, Oscar De La Hoya, dominated an aging Chavez Sr. with lightning combination, signaling the fight to be stopped in round 4. Although it was hype around this fight, it fell short of expectations by only drawing a live watch audience of 750,000 viewers. Very disappointing, but it's not a flop, but the way that this fight was promoted and hyped up, you would think more people would have been tuned in. You would think that it would have had a little bit more luster to where at least 2 million people can tune in. And it was free, by the way. It was free. It wasn't pay-per-view, it was free. So that's a little disappointing, but nonetheless, we'll move on. November 9th of 1996, we had Mike Tyson versus Evander Holyfield, billed as finally. Holyfield stops Tyson in the 11th round. We all know that Tyson, he was going through mental turmoil. He later revealed that he was on drugs, cocaine, wasn't taking training serious, things of that nature. But still, Mike Tyson at this time, he was coming off of a crazy first round knockout of Selden, which that was the same night that Tupac had died to gun violence in Las Vegas, September 7th, 1996. Was the same night that he got shot, I should say. You know, so Mike Tyson, he was still a public attraction. People still wanted to pay to see him. The public didn't see Mike Tyson as washed up and not the same. He still had that allure. He still had that mystique. Like, you don't know what Tyson's going to do because one punch can end the fight. So the fight was successful numbers-wise, but hindsight 2020, Tyson was past his prime. We'll move on to the year 2001, January 20th. Floyd Mayweather versus Diego Corrales. Floyd dominated Diego, eventually stopping him in the 10th round to retain his WBC super featherweight title. This also catapulted Mayweather into serious pound-for-pound consideration talks. You know what I mean? Dominating a ferocious prime Diego Corrales in convincing fashion, making it not even look close. Diego Corrales couldn't land not one clean punch on him. It made us look at Floyd Mayweather like, okay, we need to really respect this guy and pay attention to his moves. We'll move on to September 29th of 2001. Felix Trinidad versus Bernard the Executioner Hopkins, billed as And Then There Was One. The battle for undisputed at middleweight since Marvin Hagler, which was 1986, 1987, right? Which B-Hop outboxed Tito, eventually stopping him in the final round of the schedule, 12 rounds. Amazing fight. I still watch that fight to this day as if it's the first time that I'm watching it. Amazing fight. This fight also put Bernard Hopkins on a global scale, like he's the real guy. He's the real deal. Even at 35 years of age. Older, much older. Still put him on the map like he's the one, right? Undisputed middleweight supremacy. Bernard Hopkins did his thing. We'll move on to the year of 2002. May 18th, Mickey Ward versus Arturo Gatti, Part 1. Valiant effort from the underdog, Mickey Ward earns him a majority decision over Gatti. I'ma just say 2 words. Excuse me. I'ma just say 2 words regarding Mickey Ward Gatti 1. Round 9. We'll move on to June 8th of 2002. Lennox Lewis versus Mike Tyson. Billed as Lewis Tyson is on. The defending unified WBC, IBF, IBO, and the ring champion Lennox Lewis defeated former undisputed heavyweight champion Mike Tyson by knockout in the 8th round. As I said before, if Tyson was past his prime in 96, or I'm not going to say past his prime, but he wasn't the Iron Mike of the late 80s, early 90s. He wasn't the same Iron Mike. After that prison stint, things kind of went south a little bit for Mike Tyson, especially after Cus D'Amato had left his life. You know what I mean? But still, Mike Tyson at this time, even in 2002, was still an attraction. People still wanted to come out to see what he can do if he could turn back the hands of time and give us that vintage Mike Tyson. But we didn't see it. We'll move on to September 14th of 2002. We have Oscar De La Hoya versus Fernando Vargas, billed as Bad Blood. Highly competitive fight turns the tide in round 10 when De La Hoya catches Vargas with a great shot to the temple. This led to vulnerability and an eventual stoppage in round 11. The WBC, WBA, and ring title belts were on the line for this bout. Good fight. November 23rd of 2002, we have Mickey Ward versus Arturo Gatti, Part 2. Rematch of the famous back and forth slugfest. Arturo Gatti came out victorious, defeating Ward by unanimous decision. We'll move on to the year 2004, May 8th. Manny Pacquiao versus Juan Manuel Marquez, Part 1. First of 4 legendary battles of 2 greats in Manny Pacquiao and Juan Manuel Marquez in lineal featherweight championship fight. May 15th of 2004, we have Roy Jones Jr. versus Antonio Tarver 2, Part 2, billed as More Than Personal. Roy Jones suffers his first knockout loss in a rematch to longtime rival Antonio Tarver. Shocked the whole world, shocked the whole boxing world. We couldn't believe it. September 18th of 2004, we have Oscar De La Hoya versus Bernard Hopkins, billed as It's History. Undisputed middleweight championship fight between 2 superstars in the sport at the time. Hopkins stopped De La Hoya in the 9th round with a liver shot. Vicious liver shot. The event was a success, generating more than 1 million pay-per-view buys. Then we'll move on to the year 2006. We have January 21st, Eric Morales versus Manny Pacquiao, Part 2. The bout is the second of the Pacquiao-Morales trilogy, widely considered as one of the greatest boxing trilogies of all time. Manny Pacquiao avenged his defeat to Morales in dominating fashion, winning via 10th round TKO. Then we'll move on to April 8th of 2006. We have Floyd Mayweather Jr. versus Zab Judah, billed as sworn enemies. IBF Welterweight Championship was on the line, which Floyd Mayweather came away victorious via 12-round unanimous decision. We almost had a near scare and disqualification from Floyd Mayweather for Roger Mayweather jumping in the ring, going after Zab Judah after what apparently appeared to be some intentional low blows landing round 10. We'll move on to May 6th of 2006. Oscar De La Hoya versus Ricardo Mayorga, billed as Danger Zone. WBC super welterweight title held by Mayorga is taken by Oscar via 6-round TKO, in which Oscar told him in the press conference, "I'm going to stop you. I'm going to knock you out," for talking crazy to Oscar De La Hoya's wife, in which Oscar De La Hoya did. I respect it so much. June 10th of the year of 2006, we have Bernard Hopkins versus Antonio Tarver. B-Hop outboxes Tarver to a 12-round unanimous decision to reclaim legitimacy after back-to-back losses to Jermaine Taylor, losing his 4 titles that he had defended for so long, losing those titles to Jermaine Taylor. He avenged that against Antonio Tarver. Great fight. November 18th, Manny Pacquiao versus Eric Morales, billed as the grand finale. Similar to the second fight, Pacquiao entirely dominated the fight, scoring a total of 3 knockdowns to knock out Morales in the 3rd round. Wow, amazing. Manny Pacquiao's rise to fame, rise to stardom, it begins to catch fire here. He was already a star. It really began to catch fire. 2007, the year 2007, May 5th, we have Oscar De La Hoya versus Floyd Mayweather, billed as The World Awaits. Tactical chess match goes to the smaller Floyd Mayweather, who countered his way to victory over De La Hoya via 12-round unanimous decision. July 21st, 2007, we have Bernard Hopkins versus Winky Wright. Ronald Winky Wright. B-Hop outboxes Winky to coast to a 12-round unanimous decision. A lot would say that this was a boring fight, but those were still 2 great names, big names at the time, and people were tuning in to find out what was going to happen in action, right? October 6th, 2007, we have Manny Pacquiao versus Marco Antonio Barrera, Part 2, billed as Will to Win. Barrera came out smarter in this fight as he survived up to the final round, but Pacquiao easily outboxed him throughout the fight. Pacquiao defeated Barrera via unanimous decision. 2 judges scored the bout 118-109, whereas the third scored it 115-112. Right? December 8th of 2007, we have Floyd Mayweather versus Ricky Hatton, billed as undefeated. Both fighters in their prime, undefeated. A lot of trash talk building up to the fight. Hatton made the fight rough and rugged, but Mayweather pot-shotted all the way to a 10th round KO victory. Is ruled as a TKO victory, but I say it's a KO victory. He put Hatton on his back. Just leave it there. We'll move on to the year, 2008, March 15th, Juan Manuel Marquez versus Manny Pacquiao, Part 2, billed as Unfinished Business. The fight is the second of the Pacquiao-Marquez tetralogy. Closely fought battle, Pacquiao edges a split decision victory. Some feel it's very controversial, but very close battle. Very tough battle. Pacquiao even said after the fight that it was his toughest fight that he's ever fought in his life, and he really had to think and really had to edge it out. He really had to edge it out. He had to go in the toolbox. April 19th of 2008, we have Bernard Hopkins versus Joe Calzaghe. Unified super middleweight champion Joe Calzaghe moves up in weight to challenge the Ring Magazine light heavyweight title holder Bernard Hopkins, B-Hop, the Executioner, and happens to edge a split decision victory over the 175-pound champ. Act like you know. Act like you know. November 8th of 2008, we have Joe Calzaghe versus Roy Jones Jr., billed as Battle of the Superpowers. Joe manages to weather the storm of being floored early in the fight to cruise to a victory over the legend, Roy Jones Jr. Shocked us all. Shocked us all. This fight was supposed to be a get-back fight for Roy Jones after, a string of losses and not looking like him normal self, after suffering his first knockout to Antonio Tarver and kind of just, teetering down a little bit. He started to get some wins, you know what I mean? He defeated Felix Trinidad and he was starting to, pick back up the steam. This fight was supposed to put Roy Jones back in that spotlight as, y'all must have forgot, I'm still here, ain't nothing changed. But fell short, right? Fell short. We'll move on to December 6th of 2008. We have Oscar De La Hoya versus Manny Pacquiao, also billed as the dream match. Pacquiao defeats De La Hoya via technical knockout when De La Hoya decided not to continue with the fight before the start of the 9th round, right? Crazy. That was actually Oscar De La Hoya's last match. We haven't seen him in the ring since. We'll move on to the year 2009. We have May 2nd, Manny Pacquiao versus Ricky Hatton, billed as the Battle of East and West. Ricky Hatton falls short of redemption after suffering his first loss to Floyd Mayweather, thus going down in the second round knockout loss to Manny Pacquiao. September 19th of 2009, Floyd Mayweather Jr. versus Juan Manuel Marquez, billed as number 1/numero uno. Floyd dominates Juan Manuel Marquez en route to a 12-round unanimous decision. November 14th, 2009, Manny Pacquiao versus Miguel Cotto, billed as Firepower. Pacquiao dominates a bloody Cotto, eventually stopping him in the 12th round of action, right? November 21st of 2009, we have Andre Ward versus Mikhail Kessler. The first round of the World Boxing Super 6 Series in the super middleweight division. Yes, the battle for supremacy, the Super 6. And then there was 6, it came down to 1. This was the first of it. Andre Ward versus Miguel Kessler. Andre Ward outclasses and outboxes the heavy favorite prior to the fight, Miguel Kessler. This fight would catapult Ward into the spotlight as a potential pound-for-pound leader. All facts. We'll move on to the year 2012. March 24th, Danny Garcia versus Eric Morales. Danny Garcia bites down and places his name in the top boxers conversation, securing a unanimous decision in the WBC super lightweight title. Put Danny Garcia on the map. Put him on the map as one to watch. April 28th, 2012, we have Bernard Hopkins versus Chad Dawson Part 2. For the first fight, it was ruled a no contest because Chad Dawson had threw Bernard Hopkins down to the canvas during the clinch. He had picked him up and threw him down, and Bernard Hopkins dislocated his shoulder, couldn't continue in the fight. So, in a rematch, right, Chad Dawson battles his way to a majority decision over B-Hop. Hard fought fight, but Dawson edged it out, managed to win. Moving on, May 5th of 2012, we have Canelo Alvarez versus Shane Mosley on the Floyd Mayweather-Miguel Cotto undercard. A young Canelo passes his first true test with flying colors, cruising to a 12-round unanimous decision. Put Canelo on the map as the one to watch, right? This was a lot of people introduction to the red-haired Mexican. Who's this? He can box. He's good. May 5th, same day, Floyd Mayweather Jr. versus Miguel Cotto, billed as Ring Kings, one of Floyd Mayweather's toughest battles since the first Jose Luis Castillo match. Floyd, he edged it out, unanimous decision, but it was hard fought. It was a tough fight. We'll move on. June 9th of 2012, we have Manny Pacquiao versus Timothy Bradley. Timothy Bradley wins a highly controversial split decision over Manny Pacquiao. Highly controversial, in which Bradley ain't win that fight to me. Not at all. It was so bad, Bradley said that he was getting death threats back to back. It was tough. It was tough. We'll move on. July 14th, 2012, we have Amir Khan versus Danny Garcia. Danny Garcia knocks out Amir Khan in the 4th round of action. Whoa. What a fight. What a fight. This really put Danny Garcia on the map as the one to watch at 140. This Puerto Rican from Philly, he coming with it. Put him on the map. September 8th, 2012, Andre Ward versus Chad Dawson. Andre Ward dominates bad Chad Dawson, thus scoring 10th round TKO victory. Right? Not Ward, but Chad Dawson shook his head to the referee like, nah, I'm done. Another no, that was another no mas. Another no mas, made the man quit. December 8th, 2012, we have Manny Pacquiao versus Juan Manuel Marquez, part 4. You already know what happened in this fight. Pac-Man is knocked out unconscious in the 6th round of action. That says it all. The knockout of the century, man. The knockout of the century. We'll move on to the year 2013, another great year in boxing. Like the 2000s had them. The 2000s battling with the golden era. I don't know, y'all. 2013, April 20th, we got Canelo Alvarez versus Austin Trout. Canelo outsmarts Austin Trout en route to a 12-round unanimous decision. April 27th of 2013, we have Danny Garcia versus Zab Judah. Rugged fight, but Danny Garcia pulled away and showed why youth plus skill overcomes father time every time. September 14th, 2013, we have Danny Garcia versus Lucas Matisse on the undercard of you know who. Amazing, valiant effort from Garcia to get the best of Matisse in a 12-round unanimous decision. Great fight. Possibly fight of the year. In my opinion, September 14th, 2013, Danny Garcia, Lucas Matisse, that was fight of the year all day long. That was fight of the year in my book. Same night, September 14th, 2013, we have Floyd Mayweather versus Canelo Alvarez, billed as the one. Floyd Mayweather shuts out and completely outboxes a young Canelo Alvarez. The fight was not even close. The fight was not even close. We'll move on to the year 2017. We have March 4th, Danny Garcia versus Keith Thurman. Thurman outboxes Garcia elusively. We'll move on to May 27th. Kell Brook versus Errol Spence Jr. Errol Spence Jr. stops Kell Brook to win the IBF welterweight championship. This was the start of Errol Spence's reign of terror. June 17th, 2017, Andre Ward versus Sergey Kovalev, part 2, billed as the rematch. Boxing super fight for the unified WBA, WBO, IBF, and the vacant Ring Magazine light heavyweight titles between the two top best pound-for-pound fighters in the world. Andre Ward won by an 8th round TKO. Then we have July 2nd, 2017, Manny Pacquiao versus Jeff Horn. Manny Pacquiao loses his WBO title in Australia. Very disappointing. And then, September 16th of 2017, we have Canelo Alvarez versus Gennady Golovkin, billed as supremacy. Despite Golovkin outlanding Alvarez in 10 of the 12 rounds, according to CompuBox, The fight ended in a controversial split draw, right? 2017, great year. 2013, great year. 2012, great year. 2009, great year. 2008, great year. 2007, great year. 2006, great year. 2004, great year. 2002, great year. 2001, great year. 1996, great year. 1980, great year. 1974, great year. 1938, amazing year. How does this boxing year, 2023, April 22nd, Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia, May 20th, Devin Haney, Vasil Lomachenko, July 8th, Virgil Ortiz Jr., Lamonius Stanionis, July 8th, Jaron Ennis, Roman Villa, July 25th, Naoya Inoue versus Stephen Fulton, July 29th, Errol Spence Jr., Terrence Crawford, September 30th, Saul Canelo Alvarez versus Jermell Charlo. How does the year 2023 measure up to all of these other great years of boxing? How does it measure up? Is it even close? Does it exceed? I don't know. I want to hear y'all thoughts on it. Y'all let me know what y'all think, man. It's AR, the equalizer, the data scientist of boxing, man. Until next time, it's been real. We out.